I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
This is where the fun begins.
Hello there.
Hello and welcome to Jedi Knights, the official Star Wars podcast for JoyClicks. I'm Mike Connors. You can't see my face, but you can hear my voice. And as always, I have my wonderful co-host who sometimes, does the main hosting of this show, Christian Buckley. He's in the co-hosting chair of the Millennium Falcon, pushing all the buttons and doing all the levers and doing all the things that people in the Millennium Falcon do. How are you, Christian?
I'm great, Mike. Now that I've bypassed this compressor, just call me Ray, because I fixed the PC issues. For video viewers of the show, though, you may see that Buryaga is where Mike currently is. Don't sweat it, Mike is okay. It's still him.
I'm here. You just can't see me. That doesn't mean that I'm not here, though.
Yeah. Well, how are you doing, Mike?
Dude, I'm doing good. I've been playing Titanfall 2, which is not Star Wars related. So just because of all the hype that has been sort of fuming and forming around Apex Legends recently. So.
Yeah, well, it's like a couple degrees of separation from Star Wars, because Respawn, they did Titanfall, they did Jedi Fallen Order, so.
Yeah, you can always find a correlation or something like that.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, loving to hear that you're playing that game. And honestly, I know Respawn, they're really busy, but I'd love a Star Wars shooter from them. It would just be great.
What would you rather have? Would you rather have like a Titanfall 3 or like Apex Legends campaign?
Titanfall 3.
Okay.
Easily.
That's what I thought. Yeah. That's what I thought. Though I'm very excited for Season 9. Like, it looks really cool. And I'm loving Titanfall 2. I don't know how I haven't played this game before. It's, like, right up my alley and everything. So
makes me so happy.
Yeah, man. But you've been good and everything?
Yeah, feeling the hype for Star Wars more recently. Got my Boba Fett shirt on today, because Falcon and Winter Soldier, they got, like, one episode left, presumably a week for their documentary, and then... right around the corner, basically, we got Bad Batch, so I'm ready to go back to the galaxy.
Ready to go. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, totally. I've also been loving Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Great show.
Oh, yeah, great show.
So I think we should start off the podcast, as we normally do. We got a lot of news and a lot of rumors to discuss. And then, obviously, we're going to be talking about Tartakovsky's Star Wars Clone Wars. Christian and I, over the past week or two, watched the vintage collection that Disney released on Disney Plus that has 2 1-hour specials of just like Tartakovsky's Clone Wars from 2003. So we'll be talking about that later. But first, I think we should do what we always do, and that's our segment from the Jedi Archives. So this is a segment in which Christian and I both choose a Wikipedia page, the Star Wars encyclopedia on the internet, and we choose something from the Star Wars galaxy, canon or legends, and we bring it to the show and we educate each other on it. So, Christian, why don't you go first?
Sure. A bit of a tease for later in the episode, Mike, but I chose the Power Lance. So,
the Power Lance.
A Power Lance was a variant of Energy Lance that lacked the latter's ability to fire plasma bolts. Like the Energy Lance, its main purpose was used in mounted combat, but while Energy Lances functioned underwater, Power Lances were designed for troopers on speeder bikes, comprising an elongated grip, a conical guard, and a vibro-edged shaft that terminated in a conical heating element. The Power Lance was essentially a great force pike with alterations made for balance and easier handling. No.
So basically, these were like a cutting torch, kind of like if you wanted to slam into like an enemy ship or something, destroy it from the inside.
Kind of, but you use it on a speeder, like a knight on a horse.
Oh, we're jousting now.
Yes, we are jousting because this was, I believe, originated in Tartakovsky's Clone Wars, as far as I know.
Yeah, it does make an appearance there for sure. Well, that's interesting. Did you choose that, or was that a random one?
Oh, I chose that because that was something that I was like, this is so dumb, but I love it. Like when I was watching it earlier, I was like, oh man, it's so cool. But big fan of that.
Well, Christian, according to the Wikipedia page, you can get one for only 2,500 credits. So,
not bad.
Do you have that kind of cash?
Maybe I do.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe I can call up some hut gangsters and take out a loan or something.
I don't think you want to be taken a loan from those guys.
Maybe.
So actually, I chose a random one today. I just kind of clicked the random button. And I think this is a Legends character because I've never heard of them before. So you ready for this, Christian?
Sure.
Vinto Hrida, Hreda.
Okay.
So Vinto Hrida was a male Rhodian mercenary smuggler and bolt slinger during the reign of the Galactic Empire. Exceptionally skilled with a blaster, few beings would stand a chance against him in a light fight. So yeah, he's just a Rhodian guy. I guess he was in Jabba's realm, Star Wars Imperial Assault, which I'm not entirely sure what that is. So, it's a strategy board game. So he was a board game character. There you go.
Very cool.
That's Vinto Hrida for you.
Vinto Hrida. Good name for a Rhodian, I think. I feel like there's a trend, because when I played KOTOR, there was a Rhodian named, like, Greta, and it was like Greta, Greedo, the one you just said sounds like it fits in that vibe,
Yeah, totally. I feel like they try to keep some consistency among like the different species and stuff for naming or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this he looks pretty cool. I mean, like there's some concept art. He kind of looks like, a Greedo Han Solo crossover. Maybe that's what Greedo was. We just never really got to see that. But anyways,
where's my Greedo series? Disney.
That would be cool, right? Like
it would only be cool if there was no translation, captions only.
Captions only, right? Yeah. So that's Vinto Hrida for you and the Power Lance, two great Wikipedia articles that we chose today for today's segment.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to move on to some of the news that we got, but first I think we should start with some of the rumors. So these haven't been confirmed officially, but I think it's definitely worth noting since this was getting some traction on the internet. So we like talking about TV on this podcast, and we talk about The Mandalorian probably every single episode because, I don't know, it's probably up there as one of my favorite TV shows of all time. And lucky for me and for you and for all the listeners of this podcast, Season 3 may start filming soon, and get this, there are possibly going to be Wookiees in Season 3. So we might have a Buryaga cameo.
I was wondering, Mike, you joke, but like I was like, what is the lifespan of a Wookiee? Like,
yeah,
High Republic is what? At max 400 years before Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
Buryaga, I don't know if we have a confirmed age. Probably do, but
he's a Padawan, so he's young.
Yeah, like younger than Chewie when we meet Chewie, probably, right?
Right. I mean, I think it's implied that Wookiees can live a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, like Chewie's like 100 something, right?
Yeah, I think they say that at some point.
Yeah. So like, realistically, man, I don't know. Like, I would love that, but I don't know how likely it is. But man, I think that'd be super fun.
I would love a Buryaga in The Mandalorian, but just kind of getting into the meat and potatoes of this here. This is according to Bespin Bulletin, where they said that the train yard location in LA where the Book of Boba Fett had been filming is now empty, so I guess that's where the Mandalorian filmed parts of its first two seasons. Okay. And so now that Boba Fett wrapped filming at this location, it seems as though Bespin Bulletin is extrapolating that the Mandalorian is soon to take its place. So that's interesting. And another rumor from that was the Wookiee thing. I guess we don't know yet if it's going to be like a main character or a side character, or if they're just going to show up in the background. I guess it's a fun little Easter egg nonetheless. Would you want to see like a main character be a Wookiee in The Mandalorian, or at least like a supporting character?
Dude, I think that'd be very fun. Like if we get a Wookiee in the crew, if we get like Din Djarin running missions with a Wookiee to like fill the void in his heart of Grogu, that'd be fun.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely could happen, right?
Yeah.
he's gonna definitely be looking for something to fill the void, like you said.
Yeah. I'd be into it. What do you think of that? Would you be on board for a Wookiee? Like, I know we don't need Wookiees in everything, but they exist in the galaxy, so I'm assuming you're on the same page, right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we don't really get to see Wookiees that much. Like, we saw obviously the Kashyyyk sequence in episode 3, and like Chewie is a main character who's like basically always there. But like, even if they were just like in the background, just like as citizens of like another planet, I feel like it would just be good to see that.
Yeah.
Like at like post Empire, like what are the how are the Wookiees faring and stuff? Because we also know that the Empire didn't treat them very well.
Right. And Tarful was the chieftain in Fallen Order, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, maybe we get more stuff from Kashyyyk. Dude, if we go to Kashyyyk in season 3, oh, I'd be way into that because I'm with you. I want to see what's up, like post Empire, how are they doing?
No, totally. I want to get a Kashyyyk like it is in KOTOR though, where like you have to take an elevator down to to the base floor.
Yeah.
I want like a mystery episode or something down
That'd be
there.
sick. Dude, honestly, remember when we pitched like our dream Star Wars things, and I was like, give me like Predator, but in Star Wars. Do that on Kashyyyk. In the lower levels, that'd be awesome. And Din's in there, dude. Come on, that'd be so cool.
That's a great idea. Yeah, that'd be sick.
I would love that.
Me too, man. Yeah, so Buryaga maybe will be appearing in The Mandalorian season 3. We'll have to wait and see.
Mm-hmm. Well,
yeah.
One last quick question: what are the odds that it's Chewbacca?
Well, I mean, like it's possible he's around during this time.
Yeah.
You'd have to think though, so soon removed from, the Battle of Endor, he's probably off with like Han Solo.
Mm-hmm.
Who's to say though? We may have like Alden Ehrenreich come back for a cameo or something.
Don't tease me, Mike.
I mean, I would just say it's probably a likely not Chewbacca, just because like he already gets so much screen time and all that kind of stuff, and there's a plausible explanation that why he wouldn't really be with Din Djarin during this time.
Exactly, yeah, and we already have Luke, so like
Yeah, weird. I would rather see like a new character or Buryaga.
Yeah, that'd be
dope. Yeah, so moving on to the next rumor story that I have here. I saw this. This is one of the last things that I put on the list, but I wanted to address it up top because I think this is interesting. According to We Got This Covered, Marvel star Chloe Bennett. I guess she's just in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so Marvel star. I don't know, but I guess she's being linked with a number of high profile projects, and she is rumored to play Dr. Aphra in an upcoming series. So I'm not really super familiar with Chloe Bennett myself. I haven't watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. on TV. But obviously people like her, and she definitely looks, I don't know, she looks like Dr. Aphra as she is, portrayed in the comics at least. So I can see it.
Yeah, I think I could see it. I haven't watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. really.
Yeah.
But I know Chloe Bennett is like a fan favorite. Like, and everybody who likes that show loves her, and they want her like so desperately to reprise her character in a future MCU thing. So like, clearly, I think she could fit into a fan favorite, position in this series. And I feel like Dr. Aphra, for the people who are reading expanded content, is a fan favorite. So like, makes sense, like there's a lot of stars aligning with fan favoritism of just filling in an adaptation of this character that is probably getting an adaptation sooner or later, right? Like,
yeah,
Dr. Aphra, I feel like, has been around the entire last decade since the purchase, right? Like, it's been a while.
Yeah, well, I think Dr. Aphra was a Disney creation. I think it was one of their first like original Star Wars expanded content. I don't think she was like an expanded universe character. I might be completely wrong though.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but I know she was in the Vader comics like early on, and she's had a bunch of her own comics as well. So like, clear fan favorite if she's selling that well in the comic space. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, like I do want to read her comics at some point. It's like kind of just been an oversight for me because I feel like it's a pretty big part of the new canon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I was actually wanting to do sometime this year, but we'll see. I think this is a good choice. Like I said, I don't really know Chloe Bennett. Well, obviously I don't know her, but like I've never really seen her in anything. So I can't really comment on like her acting abilities. But like you said, people seem to really like her. So
Yeah. And
you know,
I'm almost positive she joined the cast of the CW Powerpuff Girls live action show that's currently filming. So I don't know if that would interfere or anything, because you know, like those CW shows basically shoot like 8 months out of the year.
yeah.
But
Is she a Powerpuff Girl?
she is, yeah. I think she's the pink one,
Oh,
Blossom.
gotcha.
I
All
think.
right. Interesting. But yeah, I mean, I think this would be interesting. Obviously, this is just a rumor, but it sounds plausible to me, and I would be down for it.
Yeah.
I would love to see a Doctor Aphra TV show.
Hell yeah.
So I think we should get on to the news, and this is a really cool one that I found, Christian. So we lost David Prowse last year, I believe, the actor behind Darth Vader, the man in the suit, if you will.
Yes.
I don't know how he passed away, but we did lose him last year. Was it COVID?
No, I think it wasn't COVID related, because I remember doing this. I remember talking about it on the show, and we were like, it's not because of COVID. I'm pretty sure that was what happened.
Okay.
But yeah.
Well, you know, either way, he passed away last year. And I saw this article from The Guardian, which is like a British newspaper. And David Prowse, he's from Bristol, I guess, in England. And a bunch of his stuff is going up for auction on May 4th. So you could buy David Prowse's stuff. This includes an iconic movie script from The Empire Strikes Back, which has key lines removed to keep Vader's relationship with Luke Skywalker a secret, a piece of the Millennium Falcon's cockpit, and a Darth Vader mask that Prowse is believed to have used for appearances at conventions and events. So this will be happening on none other than May 4th in Bristol, and you can go bid on this stuff if you have like a bunch of money. I just think that's really interesting and kind of cool.
Yeah, when you said the May 4th thing, I was like, that feels weird. But like, yeah.
It definitely seems like they did that on purpose.
Yeah. I was like, I heard that. I was like, well, that's a choice. Like, there's nothing wrong with this. It's just like, okay, yeah, we're all happy about Star Wars today, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're selling this dead guy's stuff.
I mean, like, yeah, really leaning into it. But I mean, I guess he lived a long, fulfilling life, you know. So
yeah, and he was, from everything that like I've heard about him, like for conventions and stuff, he was always like really enthusiastic about it. So yeah, it makes sense, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's interesting that he's going to be getting, or you know, people could buy all this like really interesting memorabilia, like the Empire Strikes Back script. That's so cool.
What do you think the highest bidding item will end up being out of the ones you listed? Which one will go for the most amount of money?
Honestly, man, like the OG Empire script, I feel like is worth a lot. Like, that's probably worth a lot of money. And then maybe like, honestly, maybe the mask that he used, you know, like, though it wasn't like in the movies or anything, I could still see that fetching a high price.
Yeah, I definitely think you're right. The script, especially because if it's like his copy, you know, from actually shooting, and it doesn't have the line, like that would be a huge thing for collectors, I bet. But the other two, I bet, will probably net out to be around the same. But definitely that's script.
Yeah. I mean, those aren't the only things that are being auctioned. I think the article says more than 700 possessions of David Prowse. So yeah, wow. I mean, there's probably some gems in there that is not making the headlines, you know. So I think the Guardian must have just pulled out the most interesting ones. But yeah, I just think this is interesting. It's a bit on the nose, but I mean, like you said, for collectors of Star Wars memorabilia, like this is a huge thing for them.
For sure.
So yeah. I wanted to move on to some more news here. We're talking about The Mandalorian just once again. The director of photography for season 2, name is Baz Idoine, or I don't even know how to say that. This person was recognized by the American Society of Cinematographers for outstanding visuals for Chapter 13 of The Mandalorian, The Jedi. This is the Ahsoka Tano one. So yeah, I think well deserved. There was a lot of references. What's that Japanese director that people say that?
I've said the name a million times, but I can't think of it right now.
Yeah, he directed Seven Samurai and like Yojimbo and stuff. Like I like cannot even, but it was very much reminiscent of that, but just sort of like taken, in a different tone for this episode. Oh, Akira Kurosawa.
Yeah, there you go.
So yeah, I mean, I just thought this was an interesting thing. I did think that episode was one of the better looking ones for sure.
Yeah, loved like the mist too, and like all the forest location shots, and as well like the final duel at the end, like Ahsoka and the Madam, I forget her name, but like their duel on like the pathway with like the water on it, like that was, I loved a lot of that episode visually, so well deserved.
Yeah, definitely well deserved. So that's a pretty short one. I just wanted to mention that. Got to commend good work when good work is done, right, Christian?
Agreed.
So this is an interesting one too. We could have had Judi Dench in Star Wars, Christian. What do you think about that? We didn't get her for the Rise of Skywalker, but according to Phil Saunders, who is a veteran concept artist that worked on the Rise of Skywalker, he had to design a scene that would have featured Rey meeting the original designer of the Millennium Falcon, Judi Dench. So yeah, we totally missed out on that one, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I know Judi Dench is, I believe, Dame Judi Dench. I think that's her. I think she's been the equivalent of knighted for whatever the UK. I don't know how that system works. It's all weird.
Yeah.
But I'm only familiar with her from the 2 James Bond movies I've seen, and one of them she died in. So like, I don't have a huge history with her, but the idea of introducing the designer of the Millennium Falcon is interesting because like, does that mean the person who designed the Corellian freighter, or specifically the one, like, is there something unique about the Falcon that, like, to me, I mean, fun little anecdote, but kind of glad it got cut, because that just screams Solo to me, and listen, I love Solo, but, like, there's a time and place for, like, you want to know how this happened? Like, no, for
sure, yeah. It definitely is easy to see why this was removed from the final cut. Yeah, you're right. Like the Millennium Falcon isn't unique in its design. There are a lot of, I think it's like a YT freighter, 300 freighter or something like that. The Corellian ships, like, that ship had been made before, but the Millennium Falcon, what makes the Millennium Falcon special is, all the memories that go along with it, and L3. So yeah, I mean, this would have been cool. The concept art looks really interesting. I guess he said that Rey would have sought out the original designer of the Millennium Falcon to find a piece of hardware that could stop the First Order Armada. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. Instead, they just had everybody go to a planet in the unknown regions and just fight.
Now, hearing hardware, Mike, what if we strapped one of those Death Star lasers on the Millennium Falcon?
I mean, I think that's probably going to be something in episode 10. Sure.
What happens when the good guys have a Death Star laser?
Right. Yeah, they're going to start playing we're the bad guys, actually the good guys all along.
Yes, the seeds planted, of course, in The Last Jedi, making you question these things, but now it's going to pay off in episode 10.
Yeah. Finn becomes a dark Jedi, and Rey loses her abilities with the Force. I just made that up. That'd be cool though. But yeah, so I guess we missed Judi Dench. So sad. Another thing I thought was interesting, Katie Sackhoff, during a charity live stream, said that the cast of The Mandalorian were told that the Jedi who is coming to rescue Grogu in season 2, episode 8, spoiler warning, I guess, but if you didn't see it by now, that's kind of on you, was Plo Koon. As we know, in the final cut, Luke Skywalker comes and saves the day, but the cast on set were told that it was Plo Koon.
Stings, Mike.
It stings. We could have had him. He could have. We could have seen him.
Now here's my question.
Yeah.
Was this truly just Favreau and Filoni just like pulling a name to be like, oh, it's a placeholder? Or does this mean there's an option that Plo Koon is alive and we can actually get him again?
Yeah, Plo Koon actually didn't die on Cato Nemoidia. He just slammed into the ocean and was sort of frozen in time, just like Captain America.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, taken out just at the nick of time to save Grogu. That's what happened to Plo Koon. No, but like that's the thing. Like it just shows that like did the cast of this show like does not really know Star Wars lore, because that really wouldn't make sense because we saw Plo Koon die on screen.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know like Katie Sackhoff is a huge Star Wars fan, so like I don't know if like she heard that and was like, "Oh, are they bringing him back?" Because like I feel like Star Wars has done weirder things. You know, they brought Darth Maul back. If they can bring Maul back, they can bring Plo Koon back.
They could definitely bring Plo Koon back, but I'd have to say that that's pretty funny though. Like to hear that, like that's who they were told was coming. Like I wonder what was going through their heads. Like, could you imagine? Like how would you feel, Christian, if the end of season 2, episode 8, instead of Luke Skywalker, it's just Plo Koon? It's like super dramatic, and when he takes off the hooded robe instead of Luke's face, it's just like Plo.
Mike, I would have lost my mind because
I know I
love
would have
Plo Koon. When Luke showed up, I was like, they're doing it, awesome. But like, if Plo Koon showed up, I would have been screaming.
No, seriously, like. That would have been craziness. The only thing that probably would have been even crazier if it were like, you know, Kiadi Mundi or something like that. But yeah, interesting stuff. That I guess it kind of just shows how they really wanted to keep that under wraps, you know. And they did a very good job doing so.
For sure.
Though I would have thought like the cast would have known that it was Luke, but you know, I guess they didn't really need to.
Yeah, because maybe they would have had... Well, I'm wondering then, because, like, when did they learn? Like, when they were shooting the scene, or did they have somebody as a stand-in? Because they had a stand-in for Luke, right? Like, they did the digital face afterwards, but, like, I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I would assume that, like, maybe they were just told that the stand-in was going to be Plo Koon. Like, maybe they were just like, you know, they'll visual effects it or something like that, you know? Like, it's possible they were just like, all right, we'll just go with it.
Yeah,
you know?
I don't know, but very interesting. Very, very interesting.
Very interesting. There was something else during this interview that Star Wars Newsnet picked out. And we had talked about this last week, Christian, I believe. But Katie Sackhoff, she said in the past, when asked if she was going to be in The Mandalorian Season 3, she's repeatedly responded with an "I honestly have no idea." And I think we talked about this, right, Christian?
Yeah, I think the discussion last week was mainly like she doesn't know what's next for Bo, like in this story, but I don't know if she was talking about season 3 or just the character.
Yeah, right. So it's like in question whether or not like she's trying to get people off the scent, or if she's just like truly clueless. Which I doubt she's truly clueless. But during this charity live stream, she purposefully skipped the question and said that she had no idea what the host was talking about. I guess it was like a friendly sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting, and Star Wars Newsnet kind of did this analysis, so I got to give them credit for this. But it is interesting that she's like skipping that question now. Do you think that maybe she, within the past few weeks, I guess, got more information about her role in the upcoming season, or do you think that she's just, or am I reading into it too much?
I mean, actors and directors and writers lie a lot, because of NDAs and stuff. Like, if I was cast in Mando season 3, and I was playing potentially a pivotal character, and then I was on our show, Mike, and you were asking me questions like, hey, so what are you doing in season 3? I'd be like, I don't know. Like, so,
yeah.
I'd imagine she'd be there. We've talked about the idea of a time skip you and I and the internet as a whole, I think, between season 2 and 3. But, I think I wouldn't be surprised, maybe, if she's not in season 3. I'd be a little surprised because it feels like that's where we're going, but because there is that question in our minds of, like, where the hell do we pick up? Is it immediate? Is it 5 years after that? Like, if they choose to not follow up with Bo in Mando, I could be like, okay, yeah, that's the decision. That's the path we're going. Maybe she'll pop up somewhere else, but...
Yeah, I mean, I do think, though, that it would be sort of random if they didn't choose to sort of follow this storyline that they had set up in season 2, Like, now Din has the Darksaber, and that's an item and a symbol that Bo-Katan really wants.
Yeah.
For the show to sort of just ignore that for an entire season, I feel like would just be really bad writing,
Yeah, like, maybe I could see a world where, like, Bo doesn't know what to do, so she's like, I'll call you, and we'll figure this out later. I know you're dealing with a lot right now. At least I know it's with you, so, like, I don't have to worry. And then, maybe by the time she shows up again, she's a bit more antagonistic, maybe, because I think we haven't seen Bo enough in Mando to have enough of a payoff for the audience that's just watched Mando to, like, feel her being more antagonistic, for the people that have seen Clone Wars and Rebels and stuff that have been with her throughout this entire journey, seeing her as a member of the team now, turning the second season 3 starts with, like, give me that. We will fight to the death right now. I think for us, it would be like, okay, makes sense, logical for her character. But the same way that I feel like some people who didn't watch Clone Wars saw Ahsoka, got the general gist of it, and it's like, okay, she's looking for someone. But, like, I don't know. I feel like Bo having a heel turn immediately for the only Mandalorian audience would maybe feel a little out of left field. Am I wrong there?
No, it would. It definitely would. But I mean, I think that they would have the opportunity to sort of, like, put that turn into context
Sure.
if they choose to sort of take that route for season 3, right?
Yeah. And to the show's credit, I think they've done a really great job for getting people, comfortable with stuff they're introducing that has been introduced in the past, right? Like, I know a bunch of people that watching Mando saw Ahsoka and were like, she's awesome, and then went to watch the Clone Wars, and they were like, oh, so that's how that connects to this. So, like, I think the show's done a great job with that, and I haven't seen all of Rebels still, because I kind of fell off, but I don't know where Bo leaves off in Rebels, but, seeing her in Clone Wars and seeing her in Mando makes sense to me. So I think the show does a really good job of filling in those gaps for the people that haven't seen everything. And I think the show would be bad if it relied on your knowledge of 4 other shows, basically, to, like, be caught up, right? Like, that's also bad. So I trust them. They've done a great job so far. So if they do make a heel turn with Bo, and that is what we're going, and she is just covering it up, sounds good. Sign me up.
Well, I mean, like, how much of a heel turn would that really be, right? If she, like, chose one day, like in the show, if she just sort of switched gears and was like, oh, Din, like, you have the Darksaber, like, we're gonna fight to the death for that. Like, you're not my friend anymore. Like, you're my enemy because you own this symbol, right? Like, I don't know if it would really be that much of a heel turn, because it seems like for the very short amount of time that she was in Mandalorian season 2, I feel like we started to get some inklings that while she does have good intentions, she is, like, out for herself in a certain way. You know what I mean? So I would kind of push back on that and probably say that, like, I'm not really sure how much of a heel turn it really would be if Bo-Katan went down that route, but I guess we're gonna have to just wait and see.
I hear what you're saying. I'd have to rewatch the final scene, I think, because from memory, she, at least the way that Katie Sackhoff plays it, like, she's definitely showing apprehension. Like, what do I do here? Like, so that's maybe where I'm getting a bit of that. Like, it would feel weird if it was like, Okay, no. Yeah, okay, let's just fight. Like, getting
Yeah.
to that decision fast. Maybe it is just like a moment of pause, but leaving on that, that's the last thing I have to think on of Bo-Katan for a year. So, like, I'd imagine it won't just be like, square up, dude, let's fight immediately.
Yeah, I mean, Bo-Katan, kind of like an anti-hero, sort of.
Sure, yeah, she's been on both sides.
Yeah, she's been on both sides, but like you said, that's very apparent to us, those
Yeah.
who have watched like, content that the average viewer has not seen. So, I mean, I like you said, I trust them. I think they're going to do a good job either way. I do think that she's going to be in it though,
Yeah, for sure.
for sure. So that's like kind of it for all the big news. I did want to just mention that there is a new Black series that was announced today, and these look really cool.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's Clone Wars Anakin, Clone Wars Obi-Wan, and ARC Trooper Echo. So it's Echo while he's in his ARC Trooper form. So now while he's in Clone Force 99, aka the Bad Batch, which comes out May 4th, by the way. So yeah, these look really awesome.
I love it. I have still yet to buy a Black series. Obi-Wan, favorite character, of course. The only Black series of Obi-Wan that's not super expensive is like the common one, and it's his episode 2 appearance. But, Mike, my favorite Obi-Wan look is the Clone Wars uniform, because that's what I rock in Battlefront. So I'm buying this.
For sure.
Absolutely, I'm buying this. It's going on the shelf.
Yeah, definitely, man. I think I'm definitely gonna buy Obi-Wan and Anakin. I think just because I have Ahsoka from the Siege of Mandalore,
Ooh, yeah.
and I kind of just want to complete the collection.
Very good call.
Do you think that this is also sort of pointing to the fact that we're going to see some Clone Wars flashbacks in the Obi-Wan series?
I hope so, dude. That's what I was thinking too, because I read the interview on StarWars.com, and they were talking about how for Obi-Wan, the Obi-Wan figure, because there was one of the 3.75 inch figures of Obi-Wan from, I guess, a Black Series thing, but it was based off of Tartakovsky's Clone Wars for the design of the clone outfit Obi-Wan. And the interviewer was saying, like, hey, so the idea was we wanted to have that iconic look for Obi-Wan translated to this new line for the up-to-date The Clone Wars look of the armor and everything. And because they're doing Anakin also, and because we're throwing around these ideas of seeing Ewan in that suit, the head model on this Black Series is definitely going for like Ewan Obi-Wan, not Clone Wars Obi-Wan, So
Definitely.
Interesting stuff, Mike. Interesting stuff.
Really interesting stuff. The Anakin Skywalker one also looks really good. And it does look like they're going with the Hayden Christensen face, not like the, Clone Wars animated face. But the box actually does have Clone Wars Anakin on it. Just because I think that's the only time that we see him in this like particular garb. He's wearing his like commander garb or whatever.
Yeah, and honestly though, I think the most accurate comparison is it's a Black Series of the Battlefront characters in those outfits, because that's
Totally.
exactly what it is. They put Ewan's head on the Clone Wars body for the game. And they did the same thing with Hayden's face and Anakin.
Yeah, it's literally the same. You're totally right. They look awesome, though. I mean, the Black Series figures, we talk about them a lot on this show because they look so cool and they're so well done. And I just love seeing new ones. So these are also for the 50th anniversary of Lucasfilm, so that's interesting.
Damn, yeah. Is that this year?
Yeah, it comes. I guess so.
Jeez.
Yeah, it comes in like a box, very different from traditional Black Series. The box is like a clone trooper head, Phase 1 clone trooper head.
Yeah, it reminds me. I definitely have in this house from when I was younger. I got a Clone Wars action figure of the clone Obi-Wan, like General Kenobi outfit. I have that somewhere, and it is like Clone Wars style. And I think it came in a box that looked very similar to that.
Yeah, the box is kind of cool, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I dig it a
Hell
lot.
yeah.
Another thing that I wanted to bring up, it's not on the doc, but I was just looking through. Star Wars released some information about the next wave of High Republic content, and it's a lot. It's all the stuff that we've talked about before. We've got Race to Crash Point Tower coming, The Rising Storm by Kevin Scott. We have Out of the Shadows by Justina Ireland, which is a young adult novel. Tempest Runner by Kevin Scott, coming with an audio. But there is something that I saw here that I didn't know about previously, and it's a 8x8 storybook. I think it's probably going to be for kids, and it's called Star Wars: The High Republic Showdown at the Fair. Have you heard about this?
I have not. What is this about?
So I think it might be a children's book, but it's on sale October 5th, 2021. Written by George Mann and illustrated by Peter Antonsen and the Disney Publishing art team. The synopsis for Showdown at the Fair says, "The Republic Fair has come to the planet Valo, and everyone is celebrating. Until the dreaded Nile launches a surprise attack, and Buryaga the Wookiee and the other Jedi of the High Republic must save the day." So we're getting a Buryaga story, everybody.
It's pretty good.
I love it. I'm just interested in Buryaga, man.
Hell yeah. I need Buryaga merch.
That's what we need, yeah. Buryaga merch.
I'll buy a Funko Pop.
Totally. So yeah, I guess we should just move on to the main talking point, discussion point for this episode. Christian, what do you think?
Sure. I want to throw out there real quick.
Yeah.
Apparently, Disney Parks, Galaxy's Edge, increasing the price of lightsabers as of like yesterday. They are no longer 200. They are 220 plus tax.
Dang.
Don't know why, but now you know what you did. Now I'm probably not buying an extra crystal. So there you go. I can't swap it out. I can't have a green one and a yellow one. I'm just gonna have a green one. That's what you did.
Yeah, Disney really shot themselves in the foot with that one.
They did. Because I would have spent 220 plus tax exactly, I'm sure, if I got a second crystal. So they would have had that out of me anyway.
Well, now they're just going to get 20 extra bucks out of you for something that you're going to buy, regardless.
Yeah, I know. Who's the real fool here?
Seriously, yeah. But yeah, so I think we should. That's interesting stuff, though. I think we should move on to what we were going to talk about, though, which is Gendy Tartakovsky's Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Now, Christian, you said that you had a lot of experience with this while you were a kid, right? Or am I totally misinterpreting what you've told me in the past?
You can't see it, but I'm holding up the DVDs. I've had Volume 1 and Volume 2. What feels like my whole life. These came out when? Like 2004 or something?
2003, I believe.
2003? Okay. Yeah, so I think I've had these since like at least 2005. My cousin gave me these because he's the one who showed me Star Wars, growing up. Always did Star Wars nights when we hung out.
Nice.
And they were his, and he gave me them eventually. And I grew up with this being one of the coolest Star Wars projects there was, because prior to the Clone Wars, this is what I thought of when I thought of what the Clone Wars were like between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. Because that's what the function of this series was, right? It's not canon now. I don't know if it ever was, but like, it was officially signed off on by Lucasfilm. This was an official thing that was released to promo Revenge of the Sith. So growing up, whenever I thought of that time period, I thought of these, because I saw them at least probably at least 10 times growing up when I was younger, but I haven't watched them in like 15 years. So
yeah, no, I haven't watched. Honestly, I don't know. Have we watched this previously for the show? I feel like we have, but it was really, I was watching this and I was like, I don't know if I remember a lot of this,
I think we were going to, but I think the week we were planning on doing it, there might have been bigger news that happened. So we were like, we'll just shelve that, because I definitely didn't watch them for the show. I was going to, I remember, but something else happened.
Yeah, I think what I remember watching instead was the Clone Wars movie that came out that looks a bit more like the Clone Wars that we know, that introduced Ahsoka and stuff. But yeah, I don't think I'd ever seen this before, and I kind of wanted to just get into this just by talking about like my general impressions of this because Disney just released this on Disney Plus as part of like their vintage collection. So along with like Ewoks, which we discussed on a previous episode of Jedi Knights, Clone Wars was part of that, and so both Volume 1 and Volume 2, each around like an hour, are on Disney Plus. And I have to say, like, this was created by Gendy Tartakovsky, who I believe also did Samurai Jack, right?
Yes.
And I have to say, I love like the art style. A lot of the like scenes and a lot of the set pieces and settings just like looked like paintings almost, and then some points of it sort of reminded me of like a Studio Ghibli like movie or like something like that, you know?
Yeah, I think this series is beautiful. I love
It
the look
is.
of this show. It's gorgeous. It's one of my favorite looking things that has tackled Star Wars because it's so visually distinct, but it fits so well. Like, it's kind of
It
how
does.
the 3D Clone Wars, it's like, you look at it for a second, it's like, the hell are they doing here? But, like,
Right.
it looks great eventually, right? But, like, I think this is truly beautiful. Like you said, I was just kind of awestruck at a lot of the battlefields and the set pieces of this show, and I think that's its strength, honestly.
No, yeah, totally, man. Like I was like there was that whole I think the most visually striking thing for me was I think in the first volume it was the sequence where Mace Windu is like just absolutely destroying like hundreds
Yes,
of
dude,
super battle
yes.
droids.
I
Yeah.
I just wanted to add on to that too, because like I love that this makes the Jedi feel like superhumans in a way that I feel like a
Oh,
lot of other Star Wars stuff doesn't.
yeah, like literally the odds couldn't have been against Mace Windu, right? Like there are no crap like thousands of battle droids around, super battle droids around him, and he is just so nice with the Force that he doesn't even sweat. He just takes them all out.
Yeah, man. And I think what I love too about the role of the Jedi and the way they're portrayed in this is like they use the Force so creatively. Like in that set piece, there are all these super battle droids, but there's also this like terraforming crater machine that some battle
Yeah.
droids are running, and like the impact makes a crater, and then it has this like hammer that like pounds the ground and sends out shockwaves, and I just love it so much. It's so creative because in this fight, Mace Windu sees like there's a thing coming at him. There's a shockwave coming at him, and he uses the Force to push forward ahead of him and sort of like cut through the shockwave, but the shockwave like still hits all the super battle droids around him and pushes them
Hmm.
backwards. Like that was super cool. Earlier on, Kit Fisto's underwater and he makes like a torpedo out of the
Yes.
Force and like creating an air bubble
Yes.
under. It's so cool, dude. I love it.
It's so cool, man. I was like, the whole Kid Fisto thing was really cool. Just in the sense that he had like unique force powers, like you were talking about.
Yeah,
But dude, like, I just want to make this point. Have you ever seen the movie Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind?
I have not.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, for some reason, the Mace Windu thing really reminded me of that. And going back to just really quickly the art, like I had paused it, and I think a lot of that was like literally hand painted, like a lot of the backgrounds and stuff.
Probably.
It looked really great. But yeah, the Jedi and everything are sort of like given sort of mystical, godlike powers in this, and it just works really well, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Because it's also a benefit of animation, right? Like, I think if live action you see Mace Windu running super fast and doing, like, rapid fire punches, it would look kind of dumb. But here, I think in the medium, it's excelling at really making the Jedi this larger than life force that they are, right? And, like, we know they are, but on screen, it's pretty much always like, oh, they can move stuff. They got good reflexes, but this is like really cranking it up, and I appreciate
Mhm.
that because it works here.
Definitely, definitely. Um, So why don't we talk about just like the story, I guess. Do you want to do that?
Sure.
Of like both of these volumes, I guess. Because both of them tell different stories. The first one is basically, it sort of takes place on the planet of Munilus, I think, which is where the international banking or intergalactic banking clan is. It's sort of Obi-Wan and Anakin stage, an attack on the intergalactic banking clan home planet, and they get into some Jedi issues there. I thought it was interesting. They introduced a lot of throughout the whole Clone Wars TV series. They introduced characters that we now know, but this is the first time that they had ever been on screen, such as Asajj Ventress, who is
Hmm.
sort of like the main antagonist for Anakin Skywalker in the first volume.
Hmm.
And he goes through an interesting sort of arc about how what's happening to him as a Jedi and his temptations towards the dark side and all that kind of stuff. And so I thought this was the stronger of the two in my opinion. And I just really like the whole Anakin Asajj sort of back and forth. Uh, I thought it was just out of everything is the most emotionally impactful to me.
Yeah, because I think where Volume One is interesting is it's more of it feels more of like a check-in on the different battlefields of this war. Where the second one
Hmm.
still touches on some of that, but like it's much more. Honestly, I got kind of vibes of the what's it called, the Mortis arc a little bit with the second thing for Anakin and like going through all that emotional discovery and all that stuff. Like
Yeah,
shades of that kind of in the second volume, but the first one
yeah.
for
Well,
sure. Go ahead.
the first one I thought was interesting because like the second one was a lot more like I don't know what's the word that I'm trying to look for. It's just like he had to go through all those like different trials and sort
Mm-hmm.
of things to sort of like figure out who he is and all that kind of stuff. And at the end, he has like that big vision of his transformation into Darth Vader, and he doesn't know what it is and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's really interesting. But what I really liked is there's like sort of like a Luke moment, like a Luke arc, a Luke Skywalker arc for Anakin in the first volume because he, travels to Yavin 4 and fights Asajj Ventress and almost gives into his hate and his rage and the dark side to defeat her. So he kind of comes to grips with the fact that he maybe isn't the most stable person,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought that was really interesting. I thought that was, to me, just more impactful.
Yeah, it was definitely much more subtle, and I think what this show does fantastically is really highlight the the medium of the animation. I think because like the first half, I feel like there's not much dialogue, and I really like that. Like
Yeah.
it's pretty quiet, it's pretty reserved. There's not even a lot of music at times. The clones barely talk, and I
Hmm.
kind of love that because it just gives this really great energy of like focus on the action to the point where I was, like browsing Star Wars news, to get mentally prepared for the show at the beginning of it.
Hmm.
And I kept having to look up because like they weren't talking, and I was like, I'm doing a disservice. So I looked up and I was like wrapped in for the rest of this because it's just I think it's got a great vibe to it, dude. I think there's a style and just an energy to this specific take on this universe that I have yet to see again, and I really love. And a lot of that comes down to the choices they've made, I think, for what we've been talking about so far and the way they tell their story. But that Anakin arc, I do think, is pretty good in that first volume, and I'm like fine with the second one, but I do think this one is a bit more interesting compared to like later Clone Wars and you know where we've gone to with Anakin since then.
Yeah. I mean, I guess to me, I just thought that the second volume was sort of cookie cutter in a way.
Yeah.
Like, just to briefly sort of explain it, like, it basically just shows the leading up to Revenge of the Sith, right?
Yeah.
Like, That's the best way to do it. And like Anakin sort of goes on his own little journey and stuff, and goes through the trials and becomes a Jedi Knight. So yeah, I mean, I have to say, like, I do agree with you the fact that like a lot of it, especially in the beginning of Volume 1, wasn't really like there wasn't a lot of talking, not a lot of dialogue. You did mention something that I did want to talk about though. You said the clones didn't talk, and I thought that was fine for a while. But then, when I finished both of these volumes, and I was like, this is so much different than the Clone Wars that we know now, because the clones in Tartakovsky's version had no emotion, like, like you couldn't. It's just completely different than what we know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and maybe that's intentional because we talked a lot about the Clone Wars, and then sort of being like, oh, the clones are awesome, and then a good way into our watch through of Clone Wars, we were like, oh, they're kind of just like the droids. They're viewed that way by the Jedi to some degree, and I think here it, maybe very subtly throws that at you because they don't have personalities. So I thought that was definitely interesting. I do love though that they do like the World War II bomber painting on like the gunships. I love that. Just like this is sort of where they started the whole like, yeah, the clones can paint their armor and they'll do some interesting stuff. Like, so visually at least I like it, but for sure with you, I was waiting I was like, is it gonna be D. Bradley Baker? And it's not, but like.
Yeah, well, it was like the voice was just like this very generic, like what you would imagine, like a flat top, like like just like soldier, and it was sort of off-putting because you're like, that's not canon, but yeah, I don't know. The clones to me sort of rubbed me the wrong way. But for what it is, it's only like a 2-hour sort of thing. So what could have they really done with the clones? They had to sort of build upon the stories of the characters that we knew, because this was sort of promotional material for episode 3 and everything. So another thing I wanted to talk about, I love the voice acting, but I really hate Anakin's voice so much, dude.
I mean,
like,
I completely understand that, because I think it's like, man, this dude's just whiny as hell. But I would say I think that this Anakin is a closer voice match to Hayden than Matt Lanter is. As much as I love Matt Lanter, he just feels like his own take on Anakin. This feels like, hey, we're trying to make this fit, because the cadence, at least, of this Anakin, I think is very much in line with the Anakin from Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, well, this Anakin is like really whiny,
Yeah, and he has a lot of those like, it's unfair, I don't like it, like that stuff, that Hayden delivery. I felt a lot here. It's not, I was annoyed by some of it, but like I think it was accurate,
Yeah, I mean, like, in a way though, it almost felt like too on the nose. Like it almost felt like the voice actor was like trying to do an impression, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like that I'm not really too hot on. Every time he talked, I was like, no.
Yeah, there's definitely a balance to strike, because like on a similar page, I think James Arnold Taylor, this was his debut as Obi-Wan, right? And clearly they liked him because he was brought back for the Clone Wars as Obi-Wan. And I think I saw an interview or a clip recently, maybe it was on TikTok, of the way he talked about finding his voice for Obi-Wan, which was like trying to do Ewan and then mixing in some Alec Guinness, so he like sort of created his own. That was a combination of the two.
Yeah.
So they didn't go that route with Anakin, but I love Obi-Wan in this show. He is a bit more harsh, and I noticed that a lot of the characters here sort of all have a bit more sass to them, which I think is fun, but obviously I love Obi-Wan, and this, as a child, was probably part of that as well, seeing him be this badass general.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I mean, James Arnold Taylor, I feel like, is a little bit of an exception, because like he just does like great impressions.
Yeah.
And his Obi-Wan is like really well done. I mean, overall, Christian, like I thought that this was really interesting. And one thing that I wanted to bring up, and I kind of wanted to get your take on it, was, to me, like, this just seems like a really great proof of concept for the Clone Wars as we know it, Like, it almost seems as though, like, Lucasfilm or George Lucas had this idea of telling the story of the Clone Wars, and he wasn't really sure how to do it, or if it would even work. And he sort of they did this and proved that it was popular. And I feel like that's probably part of the reason why we have the Clone Wars as we know it today. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I bet that's exactly what happened, honestly. Because again, this was, at least at the time, this aired on Cartoon Network, so it was that partnership, and Cartoon Network is where the Clone Wars that we know and we've watched and is canon also originated, right? Like, there was the film, but the film was setting up the show that Cartoon Network was going to be airing. So, yeah, I think that's definitely probably the same, like, maybe some exceptions, but I'm sure that's basically what happened here, right? Like,
yeah,
as far as I know, growing up, the people that I talked to that did know about this, everyone who watched this when I was younger really loved it. So I don't know how popular it is within the fandom. I know there are fans of it, but like, I'm sure it was received really well because I really like it. Everybody else I talked to who grew up with it really like it. So like, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it was. I mean, I really liked it too. Like I said, I hadn't seen it before we watched it for the show, but I'm glad that I did. It definitely able to see where the Clone Wars as we know it came from and everything.
Yeah. Very cool, like lore nuggets too, because like we see Ilum here, and
true.
Is this the first appearance of Ilum in a at the time canon thing?
I'm not sure. I mean, maybe it was in some comic or book, or maybe. But,
yeah, I don't know. But
also, like first visual appearance, I would say probably.
Yeah, and like you mentioned Ventress. Like Ventress was a carryover as well to the Clone Wars. And I think it's the same voice actor too. She's just doing like a different take on it.
Yeah.
But I liked Ventress in this. I thought she was cool. Same Dooku voice actor, Yoda as well. Like, there is a good amount of carryover to the Clone Wars from this. So proof of concept is probably a good way to put it, honestly.
Definitely. I mean, one exception though, I guess Grievous. We didn't really talk about Grievous.
Sure.
He seems like, well, I mean, obviously they really reworked him after this, right? Like in this cartoon, he has like a totally different voice. He has no cough, and he's just like a way different than like what we know Grievous to be.
Yeah. Well, again, the headcanon of growing up seeing this before Revenge of the Sith, I think, like the Grievous origins, I thought that was super cool. I had no idea it was a different voice actor. True, like because again, it's been a very long time. I did not know. I was expecting Grievous to talk like Clone Wars Grievous and Revenge of the Sith. Like, I was truly ready for that, and he didn't. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But the way Grievous is adapted here, I love. Because he, especially in his first scene at the end of Volume 1, is like, he's treated like a horror villain, kind of. Like, he's stalking them. Like, it's so cool. And I think there's definitely a shift, like you said. But I always chalked it up, like I said, headcanon, to the fact that in Volume 2, when, like, Mace does, like, the Force thing or something on his chest, it, like, caves in, and it's like, oh, that's how he gets the cough. And, like, maybe that's how he gets hunched over, and he's like, maybe his voice changes, too. Like,
yeah, I mean, I guess, like, there could always be, like, the headcanon's always strongest,
Yeah.
But, yeah, man, I mean, I have to agree with you. Like, the opening scene, the way that they introduce Grievous, he's like almost like a bat, like like totally just like picking off Jedi and all that kind of stuff. He like crushes a Padawan, like into a pancake. Yeah, it is brutal, totally. I mean, I think honestly, like, the voice could have been a bit more menacing for what the character is.
Yeah, it was definitely like, they could have thrown a modulator on there, but it sounded like just the guy, like
it did. It was like a little off-putting to me, honestly.
But yeah, I think again, the show exceeds in its visuals and its way that it uses what's on screen to really get what they're going for across more than I think the dialogue does. But another thing I wanted to shout out that I thought was very fun was when they went to Ilum and Yoda was talking to Padme, and then like he's like, "Oh, I don't need help. And then she looked sad, and Yoda's like, "Call you, I will if I need help." And then she's like, "I love that was so funny. I love that so much."
No, that's so funny you say that, because I was thinking to myself, I was like, Yoda's not gonna need any help.
He's like,
and
it's
yes,
like it's to make her feel better. Like I'll say this, I was like that was so funny.
yeah, and I also like how they sort of, Clone Wars, the Clone Wars that we know, like the one that has lasted for 7 seasons, doesn't relegate Padme to her prequel sort of status of just being like, there, like, what I mean? Like, the thing that I really liked about the Clone Wars that we watched, like the 7 series run, is that like they sort of elevated Padme into like her own character with like, just better than I think the movies did. Sort of rounded her out as character, and I'm happy that like in this, like she has her moment to shine too, because I think that she's a very strong character and very, very, I don't know. I just like seeing her kick ass, to be honest with you, and I don't like it when she's relegated to just like crying,
Yeah. And I do like also that because Padme is very smart, and I like that maybe Yoda wasn't trying to do it to her, but like she was not fooled by the Jedi mind trick also. Like I like that she was just like, okay, I'll go along with it. Like,
well, she's definitely not of a weak mind, that's for sure.
But yeah, I'm with you. I love Padme, so
yeah, I love her a lot. So she was great in this. I overall thought this was an awesome thing to watch, and I'm so happy that we did. Is there anything else that I didn't bring up that you want to like add, Christian?
Let's see. I'm trying to think of thoughts I was having also watching this. We talked about the Jedi. We talked about just the direction of it all. I mean, I do think while there is some carryover to the Clone Wars, I feel like it's kind of hard to compare the two, because what I appreciate about this is like it's tackling the Clone Wars like in a vignette approach, kind of like this is like there's a large scale battles across the galaxy. There's a lot going on here, but the Clone Wars, like, it definitely has that element, but it is more character focused. And as much as Anakin and Obi-Wan have a lot to do in the Clone Wars, it's definitely, to me, it feels like it's Ahsoka's show. Like, she's the one who's really getting a lot of the growth through going through this war as a Padawan, right? And we get hints of the other two, and we get, dedicated arcs for them. But this, I like that it is more of a grand approach of the scope. We'd see it through the lens of a prequel movie, maybe. Like, I could see the story that's told across these 2 volumes. I could probably see that adapted to a film more than I could imagine them trying to adapt some abridged version of the Clone Wars, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I totally hear what you're saying.
Yeah. So I appreciate
like this scene.
that.
Yeah, this is definitely more of like a cohesive sort of like story, whereas the Clone Wars would be really hard to adapt into. Yeah, no, I totally hear what you're saying. I mean, I wonder what this would have been like with Ahsoka. Could you imagine?
No, I was thinking that.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely possible that at the time, like, she was being conceived of, like, the idea of Anakin having a Padawan. Maybe that necessarily wasn't Ahsoka at the time, but like, yeah, I wonder how much different this would have been if she were involved.
Yeah, I definitely had that thought, and part of me was like, I wish she was, because that probably would have, triggered her to maybe be referenced in Revenge of the Sith, maybe. But
true.
Yeah, overall, I think this is an awesome project. Oh, we didn't really talk about this. What do you think of Dirge? Dirge is the bounty hunter that Obi-Wan had to deal with in the first volume. of
Oh,
the guy with like the tendril arms that could like reattach.
yes, super weird. I don't know. Like, okay, well, that was really strange. I didn't even really know his name, to be honest with you. I don't think he had any speaking lines. I don't even
Right.
know who he was. Like if he was even a human or like a droid or something like that. But
So Dirge, I remember from watching this when I was younger, right? And again, non-canon, but very recently Dirge was made canon.
oh, really?
Yes, I believe. I got the Wikipedia page pulled up. I think he was brought into canon with the new bounty hunter arc that's going on of
Interesting. That's
in the
cool.
comics. Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, I just don't even really know like what he was. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
it wasn't really explained. Like, he kind of just exploded into like goo. All right.
Basically, yeah. Like, I think honestly, there's a way that you can paint that character to make him like a terrifying villain. I think, and I
Mhm.
liked. Always love this in Star Wars, but the mysticism of it, like, just like, who is this guy? Like, what's his deal? Like, that's creepy. Why is he doing that? That seems like it's hard to overcome. Like, so I think Dirge was cool. I wanted to shout him out because he is canon now. But
Yeah, yeah. No, if we get if we get like a Star Wars Bounty Hunters TV show or something like that, which we should or something, we need Dirge in it.
dude, what if he's in Book of Boba Fett?
That'd be cool, man. I'd be
Mm-hmm.
down. You know what I noticed too?
What's
Uh,
up?
did you notice like whenever the Jedi would like cut into a droid, um, like the wires would be hanging out?
Yeah. Oh,
I thought that was just really, really goofy
that.
because
Mhm.
yeah, I just thought that was goofy. No, what were you gonna say?
That reminded me too. There was so many cool takedowns in this because they really emphasized the visual flair of all
Hmm.
of it. Like that one takedown Mace Windu did on Dantooine, I think, where he used the Force and then disassembled the droid, so you just see like all the bolts and
Yeah,
screws come out, and then it just collapses. That was so cool. Like,
yeah, yeah. He has a lot of cool like he does a lot of cool Force stuff in that sequence
absolutely,
for sure.
yeah. And like, there's a lot of fun little small things here too. Like, that Padawan that Grievous kills is supposed to be a reference to Shaggy from Scooby Doo. That's why he has a green lightsaber and he looks like that, and he's
Yeah, he also
terrified.
sort of he's definitely terrified. So
Yeah. Um, but I mean, the only other thing that I really stuck out to me, we didn't talk about it too much, I guess, but the visuals of Anakin fighting Ventress,
oh, I know.
that was
That's why
so
I love it
nice.
so much.
Yeah. The rain, dude,
But
rain in Star Wars.
yeah, when the rain hits the lightsaber and it sort of like steams
Yes,
and
that
stuff.
was so cool.
So cool, man. So cool. Also, like, yeah, they're on top of like that temple on Yavin 4 and like the red
Yeah,
sun
man.
or moon or something like that. Dude, like it was just so cool. That's why I love the first volume so much
Hmm.
because that fight is just really cool. Like the visuals are awesome. Like and just yeah, I don't know, just like knowing who Anakin is and like what he's fighting with on the inside is cool.
What did you think of the stuff on like the ground level of Coruscant in Volume 2? Like, because we didn't really talk about Palpatine much in Sidious, but like, I like
Yeah.
that Palpatine kind of looks sickly, and like when he did at the beginning, I think of maybe or some point in Volume 2, he's doing like a finger thing where he's like rubbing his fingers together, and it sounds like bones just rattling against each
Oh,
other.
yeah. Yeah,
I,
yeah, yeah.
Palpatine's cool in this, dude.
Yeah, no, he's very insidious. Like he's sort of spidery.
Hmm.
I thought like the ground stuff on Coruscant was really interesting. We've never seen that perspective before.
Hmm.
And yeah, are you talking about like when, Shakti and like Yoda have to
Yes.
protect him and stuff? Yeah, there was a certain part I think when he was on in front of some window and like it just looked like he didn't have eyes. Like it looked like his head was just like a skull.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. It was really weird. Just the way that it was drawn
Hmm.
made it look like he was like without eyes, and it gave him like this really creepy vibe,
Hmm.
and just very subtle. But I was like kind of like taken back by it. This is volume 2, by the way.
Hmm.
And yeah, man, it's pretty. I love the whole thing. It was great.
Yeah, I honestly, I'm glad you liked it a lot because, like, I remember throwing it out there before, and I think you might have watched part of it, and you're like, I don't know, man. But like seeing it all together now, though, and like having this conversation, again, as somebody who loved it growing up and hasn't seen it in over a decade, I think that this is a wonderful piece of Star Wars media. I would say it holds up because it's just like it's not going for stuff that the other Clone Wars is going for. It's going for its own thing, and I think it nails what it's going for pretty well, and I'm a big fan of it. So
Yeah, it's very self-contained. It does what it needs to do. It knows what it is, and it takes a different take on It has a different take on Star Wars that we've never really seen before, and for that, I commend it. I appreciate that.
now I have one question for you,
Yeah.
because earlier today during this conversation when you said it seems like a good proof of concept, I thought you were going to say for Star Wars Visions. Now,
Well, I mean, yeah,
yeah,
kind
like,
of.
I know Tartakovsky is not an anime creator. Samurai Jack has some like anime tropes it deals with.
I mean, this feels like it has some anime influences.
George Lucas called the Clone Wars like 3D Clone Wars. He said it's much more similar to anime than a cartoon. Like I think that's how he phrased it.
With that voice too.
Yes. So my question then, I know this really isn't canon anymore, but now that we're getting Star Wars Visions, I would love to see something done in this style in Star Wars Visions for like a new version of maybe not this story, but like something along these lines, because I love that this exists the way it exists. I'm fine if we don't get any more of it, but I think something like Star Wars Visions that is this 10,000 year window to tell any story you want in with the focus on animation and distinct styles, like I just see the opportunity, man. I would love it if they did another take on Star Wars in this way.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I mean, I would say never count it out. You know, I mean, we've seen Disney do crazier things.
Yeah.
I mean, even if we don't get something in this particular style, I think the benefit of Star Wars Visions is that we're going to get to see different interpretations of, you know, a world that we all really love. And the cool thing, I don't know, the reason why I'm excited is just to be able to see those different interpretations and take them at face value and just be able to sort of just adjudicate those in my own head. I mean, if they don't go down the route of doing like a Tartakovsky's Clone Wars style Star Wars Visions thing, that'd be totally fine, because I'm sure what we're going to get in its place is going to be just as great or even better. Like, yeah. So honestly, like even watching this, like I did say it was a good proof of concept for the Star Wars Clone Wars TV show that had become so successful after this, but in a way, you're right, Christian. Like, it is almost a proof of concept for Star Wars Visions too.
Yeah, man. Like, imagine a 1 hour Star Wars Visions in this style about the Old Republic and Darth Bane.
Right.
Like, because exactly what you're saying too. If that's not,
I'd cry.
Right, but if we don't get something like that, Visions is going to give us the opportunity to have more projects that are like this. You know, like a distinct style, its own vibe, very, very distinct and unique from the rest of Star Wars, but still authentically Star Wars. And that's really exciting, because if Visions is maybe, we have nothing to go on, but like, let's say 10 episodes, and each range from like 30 minutes to an hour maybe, and they're just, 10 opportunities for something that's like this, that's awesome. So...
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I hadn't even really considered that until you brought it up, Christian, but it's a really great point. Like, this is sort of like the Star Wars Visions before Star Wars Visions became a thing. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that unless you have anything else to add, I don't, other than the fact that, I really enjoyed this a lot. And I'm really glad that we were able to watch it.
Hell yeah. I have nothing else to add. I'm just glad it holds up. I will watch these again in the near future probably, but
yes,
very glad we got to talk about it finally, and very glad that you liked it. So
Yeah, good point, Christian. Like, I'm happy that this is on Disney Plus. It's definitely going to be in the rotation of like Star Wars watching
for sure.
in the future, absolutely. So,
Wow.
well, I mean, why don't you take us out to sea, Christian? I always make you do this.
Love doing it. Mike, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Mike P. Connors.
Very nice. You can find me on Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok at Chun2D2. As well as here, youtube.com/joyclicks is where you are if you're watching the video version of this podcast. If you want the audio version, you can check it out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, your service of choice. If you enjoy the show and you can rate a review on your given platform, it would be greatly appreciated because it helps us out a ton. Clicking 5 stars is a quick tap. And if you want to get involved further and support the shows for support all the shows, you can go to patreon.com/joyclicks at the $1 and $5 tiers. The $5 tier will get you producer credit on this podcast and all of our other ones like Chris Sagas and Aaron Easton. And you can find all of those on youtube.com/joyclicks in their own playlists like this show. We've got our Jedi Knights one, playlist for everything else as well. But that is going to do it for this week. Presumably, if things don't change, we'll be talking KOTOR pretty soon, so look forward to that. But
yeah, totally.
Yeah. Until then, we're getting close to the Bad Batch. And I'm excited, Mike. So we're fine. Everything's fine. How are you?
May the Force be with you.
Oh, yes, you're right. Beep is up.
Great. That was a good episode.